Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And if you like getting your data dumped, this week is for you, because my God, was there a ton of stuff. Now, before we begin, as always, I'd like to thank the people that sent me messages, tagged me, linked me, whatever that was. It is always, always appreciated. And that is Jason Dance, David Walker, and Jacqueline Wolf. Guys, thank you very much. And if you have a tip for me, please feel free to send it my way, and I will give you a shout out as well. And with that, let's start with Arbonne International, or Arbonne International. This is a multi-level marketing company, kind of pyramid scheme type thing. They expose the personal information and credentials of thousands after its internal systems were breached by an unauthorized third party last month. Now, according to Arbonne's breach notification, 3,527 California residents were impacted by the incident, with the following types of personal information being exposed: names, email, mailing addresses, order purchase histories, phone numbers, and Arbonne account passwords. Now, while the company shared the number of affected Californians because of the CCPA, the total number of individuals is currently unknown, although Maryland, New York, New Mexico, North Carolina, and Rhode Island residents are advised to contact their attorney generals, as they have to disclose there as well. So figure if you work for them or have anything to do with them, heads up to you. Moving on. Let's go to Michigan State University, which actually was a few weeks ago in my breaches of the week for a different matter. And the operators of the NetWalker, or Mail2 ransomware, have announced the other day that they have infected the network of Michigan State University. And basically, they are giving MSU administrators 1 week to pay an undisclosed ransom to decrypt their files, or they're going to dump them online. Now, they've already published basically proof that they have this, which included 2 pages showing a directory structure allegedly from the university's network, a passport scan for a student, and 2 scans of Michigan State financial documents. So MSU, you're going to pay or you're going to get dumped, but hopefully that will be resolved without that happening. And here we are. Moving on, let's head on over to Austria in the city of Wise. We are talking about NetWalker once again, and they have published extracts of data stolen from the network of the Austrian city. Among the published extracts are building applications, building inspections, and other things. Now, the group has infected this municipality with ransomware, and like Michigan State, they are asking for a certain amount of money before they dump everything they have from that city. So hopefully the city of Wise in Austria will clean that up. Moving on, let's talk about Nippon Telegraph and Telephone, or NTT. They are the 64th biggest company in the world, according to Forbes, and they just disclosed a security breach. Now, NTT says that attackers gained access to their internal network and stole information on 621 customers from its communications subsidiary, NTT Communications. And basically, this apparently took place on May 7th, which I thought I had reported on, but I went back in my notes and I didn't. NTT says it became aware of the intrusion 4 days later on May 11th. The company says the attackers breached several layers of its IT infrastructure and reached an internal Active Directory to steal data and upload it to a remote server. The attack is believed to have originated out of NTT's headquarters, or one of their headquarters rather, in Singapore. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the blogging platform LiveJournal, because they appear to have suffered a security breach in 2014. Now, this is according to multiple attackers who are selling this information and trading this on the dark web, and this is according to ZDNet. Now, 26 million LiveJournal credentials were leaked online and sold on the dark web, and this might be old news for some people, because rumors about a LiveJournal security breach have been circulating online since about October of 2018 or so, because in October of 2018, multiple users reported receiving their unique/old LiveJournal passwords as part of a sextortion email spam campaign. So this might be old news for a lot of you, but heads up, if you use LiveJournal, make sure you've changed your password since 2014. Moving on, we're going to be talking about job seekers in India. Now, it has been discovered that a data set of over 29 million Indian users who have been seeking jobs has leaked onto the dark web. Now, researchers from Cybele stumbled onto this data on the dark web, which was posted in a forum by the possible attacker in the form of a zip file that was compressed to just over 2 gigabytes. Cybele says it got a hold of the data that was made available and their suspicions were proven correct. They believe this information was most likely picked up from a resume aggregator or a job portal somewhere in India. So heads up if you are an Indian job seeker. Moving on, let's stay with India and talk about EDU CBA. This is an online education site out of India, and they began emailing data breach notifications to customers stating that their systems were hacked and that user data was exposed. Now, the notifications were a bit strange in that they don't go into a great amount of detail, but the information that was stolen, they simply state was email, name, password, courses visited, etc. may have been compromised. So there you go. EDU CBA users, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Minted. This is a US-based marketplace for independent artists. They just disclosed a data breach after an attacker sold a database containing 5 million user records on Minted in the dark web. This apparently is another one by the Shiny Hunters, which I mentioned last week, that had hit Home Chef and about 11 other websites that we know about right now. So Minted is obviously caught up in that as well. Heads up if you're a Minted user. Moving on, let's talk about TrueCaller. This is used to identify unknown callers and also provide options to red flag spammers. This is also an app. Now, an anonymous individual is selling 47.5 million user personal data associated with TrueCaller on the dark web. Cybel found this one as well, and they noted that the data contained information categorized as a state, cities, telecom carriers, and personal data. The dark web ad states that 47.5 million Indian TrueCaller records are set up for sale, and that's going to be worth $1,000 US. The data appears to be from 2019. So heads up if you use the TrueCaller app in India. Moving on, let's talk about AIS. This is Thailand's largest cellular provider. They pulled a database offline that was basically exposing billions of real-time internet records on millions of Thai internet users. Now, security researcher Justin Payne said that in a blog post that he found the database containing DNS queries and NetFlow data on the internet without a password. With access to this database, basically anybody could paint a picture of what the internet user or their household does in real time. So AIS is obviously responding to that. Moving on, and I found this one to be absolutely fascinating. I don't know if you guys remember, I want to say about 15 years ago or so, there was actually a hacking group called UG Nazi. This was founded by then 15-year-old calling himself Cosmo after he successfully broke into companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, and others, I believe eBay as well. He got the nickname Cosmo the God. Now, obviously, he's in jail at this point. The FBI did locate him, but UG Nazi apparently continued on, and in another twisted tale, basically, from Checkpoint Security, which was just fascinating. They published this a couple of days ago. They actually found another attacker that is basically part of or affiliated with UG Nazi that is responsible for almost 5,000 website hits, the theft of private data on at least 1 million people, and the sale of stolen credit cards, which is also one of the things that got Cosmo the God put in jail. Now, despite these thefts, the UG Nazi affiliated attacker also pushed an anti-establishment message, and he was caught after making a very stupid mistake on Facebook. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am talking about Vanda the God. He is a self-publicized super hacker who basically set himself up with a goal of hacking 5,000 websites, and he got to 4,820 before discovered. Now, most of these websites that he hit were based in the US, mostly governmental, but he also attacked private companies and academic institutions, targeting these places in more than 40 different countries, and Vanda the God has been active since 2013. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and where he made his mistake. Vanda shared a screenshot of a hacked email account, but in doing so, made a mistake because the screenshot also showed an open Facebook tab with the name Vanda Assis, and basically looking up that name led Checkpoint to start identifying this attacker. Now, basically, Checkpoint compared various Facebook and Twitter accounts looking for further clues after that mistake, and eventually they found a screenshot with a set of initials that was left unmasked. By linking those initials to the Brazilian city of Uberlândia, the team pulled all Facebook profiles and matched it, and to quote Checkpoint, we were able to locate a single account which contained an uploaded image endorsing the Brazilian cyber army, which is affiliated with UG Nazi. The final step was confirmation, and to quote them again, at this point we knew we were on the individual's right track. All that was left to do was connect the individual's account with one of the known Vanda the God accounts. We were able to locate several cross posts between newly discovered profiles and Vanda de Assisi's Facebook account. And then they found the proof they needed, and I quote, photos of the same surroundings from different angles, specifically the poster's living room, posted on Vanda the God's Twitter account, and also this named Facebook account, and by virtue of that, they had exposed the hacker, and the Brazilian law enforcement was able to make an arrest. That is how you catch an attacker, and that is why crime doesn't pay, kids, and if it does, it's only temporary. So take that for what it's worth, but I thought that was a very interesting story, and we are not done because we are moving on to Cisco. Yes, Cisco, the Cisco, 6 servers Cisco uses to provide virtual networking services were compromised by hackers who exploited critical flaws contained in unpatched versions of the open source software that these servers are relying on, and Cisco just disclosed this the other day on Thursday. Now, the May 7th compromise hit 6 Cisco servers that provide back-end connectivity to the Virtual Internet Routing Lab Personal Edition. This is a service, if you're not familiar with this, that lets customers design and test network topologies without actually having to deploy actual equipment. It's actually a pretty cool service. But both that service and a related service, Cisco Modeling Labs Corporate Edition, basically got hit, and the vulnerabilities became public on May 30th. So, April 30th is when the vulnerabilities for this specific infrastructure became known. Now, Cisco deployed the vulnerable servers on May 7th, and they were compromised the exact same day because, well, it's Cisco and they're a huge target. And so Cisco took it down and remediated it also on May 7th. So hopefully no harm, no foul there, but heads up, this is all the more reason to make sure that you are updating all of your infrastructure. We all should have learned that from the Equifax breach. Moving on. Let's talk about Amtrak. That is one of the national rail lines here in the United States. They disclosed a data breach that led to the exposure of personal information of some of their guest rewards members. And to quote Amtrak, we have determined that compromised usernames and passwords were used to access certain accounts, and some personal information may have been viewed. As the breach notification letter also explains, no financial data, credit card info, or social security numbers were compromised during this incident. So heads up to you, guest rewards Amtrak users. Moving on, let's go to the state of Kentucky, because Kentucky is now joining the states of Arkansas, Ohio, Colorado, Florida, and Illinois that I've previously reported on in having their employment benefits websites hit during this pandemic. Now, a data breach in the system was announced during Governor Beshear's 5 p.m. briefing this past Thursday. The Kentucky Workforce Development Cabinet said officials were made aware of this potential vulnerability around 9:15 a.m. on April 23rd in the online unemployment portal. The portal was taken down at 11:30 that day to help prevent problems, obviously, and by noon, the technicians had made a temporary fix to prevent others from viewing the document. Basically, they think that what ended up happening was that claimants there could possibly view other people's information, which is very similar to what we have seen from Arkansas, Ohio, Florida, and Illinois. And this is stemming from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, which is a federal government agency that has really been pushing unemployment, given that we are sitting in the pandemic. So Kentucky is the latest one, and I'm guessing that they are not going to be the last as we continue on here. And we are going to continue on and stay in the United States to talk about Telus. This is a US-based software company that has a very popular real estate app. They left an Amazon Web Services S3 bucket open, which obviously was exposing data, and this bucket in question contains a folder with 6,729 CSV files related to the Telus app that includes user records, chat logs, transaction records, and all all of this was left on a publicly accessible Amazon storage server, and this basically included data like full names of users, including verified tenants and property owners, traceable user IDs, use and transaction records, and other logs. Email addresses were hit, phone numbers were hit, and on and on and on. So heads up if you use Telus or their real estate app. Moving on. And this is a little terrifying, and this is one of the last two things I want to talk about today. We're going to be talking about ADT. This is the home security. I know they have a heavy presence in the United States. I don't know if you have them in your country or not, if you're outside of the US, but we see their commercials all the time here on TV. A technician at ADT had been remotely accessing hundreds of customers' closed-circuit television cameras to spy on people in their own homes, and this is according to ADT as well. At least one of the victims was a teenage girl, the other was a young mother, and this is according to court filings. Last month, an ADT customer in Dallas spotted and reported an unexpected email address listed as an admin user in their home security system. An internal investigation by ADT revealed it was a personal email address of one of their employees, and he had seemingly used it to view the home's camera system nearly 100 times. A probe found the same technician had made himself an admin on 220 customer accounts, meaning he could lock and unlock doors remotely, as well as access live feeds of cameras connected to ADT's network. And his access has said to have stretched back at least 7 years, which means he could have been watching and recording God knows what. But in the cases that I had read of the teenage girl and that young mother, they actually had CCTV cameras in their bedrooms and were assured by ADT, according to their lawsuit, that this was completely safe, it was completely secure, and that they would be all good, and trusting ADT, they did that, and now we have a class action suit filed from those people, because obviously, if you have a camera in the bedroom, you can see everything, something I don't recommend anybody do. Moving on to that, and this is our final story, which really dovetails with ADT, which is a very specific service that would come in and bring your own cameras. A lot of us do it ourselves, buying basically like doorbell video cameras and all this kind of stuff, which is what we're going to be ending with here, because 11 manufacturers of internet-connected doorbells and security cameras have been alerted to systemic design flaws discovered by a Florida Tech computer science student, Blake Janes, and this allows a shared account that appears to have been removed to actually remain with continued access to a video feed. Now, Janes discovered the mechanism by removing user accounts. He discovered the mechanism for removing user accounts does not actually work as intended on many cameras because it does not actually remove an active user. This basically could allow a potential malicious actor to exploit the flaw to retain access to the camera system indefinitely, covertly recording audio and video, and that's obviously a massive, massive problem. And so the devices where these flaws were found, and heads up, if you have any one of these doorbell cameras or camera systems, Blink camera, Canary camera, D-Link camera, Genie mini camera, mini camera, doorbell and pan tilt camera, Mercury camera, Momentum axle camera, Nest camera, current and doorbell current, Night Owl, Ring Pro doorbell, Simply Safe, and TP-Link Casa camera. So heads up, if you are running any of those companies, you have a flaw, and I would imagine that these companies should hopefully be scrambling to update these, and all the more reason to get a good camera, that, let's say, says that it is encrypted on the back end. So, for example, as I'm looking through all of these, I know that Nest, for example, does not encrypt in Google's cloud. Ring, from everything that we understand, does not encrypt in Google Cloud, and obviously Ring Doorbell is on here from Amazon. In just doing my homework before, I do know that Simply Safe claims that they have encryption on the back end and their employees cannot access your doorbell cameras as well. And there was another one, a Bodhi, I believe, that is not on this list, that I also believe claim the same thing. But I did a rundown on that, I want to say a couple of months ago, and was thoroughly dissatisfied with what I saw from most of these companies. But those are the two off the top of my head that were claiming that they encrypted, and therefore I like them better than the others at the moment. So with that, those are your breaches of the week. Were you affected? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.